make sense now.
First point, as far as we know, only John and Matthew and potentially Mark, also known as John Mark, were the only ones of the gospel accounts that had any encounter with Jesus during his life and his ministry, his death and resurrection. Luke's gospel account is an account of his recording of other eyewitnesses that saw Jesus. To your main question, it's because those weren't their names during first century Roman occupied Israel. At least not in that translation. But those are just the English translation of those names. As time moves on and as language just evolves as it does naturally, like in the English language, we picked up different languages, like things from like the Greek, the Romantic languages, from Latin, Germanic languages. English is a mix of a bunch of different languages that's eventually formed to what we have now. And likewise with names, they changed over time also. But what we do know in the Greek manuscript copies that we have of the gospel accounts, it actually reads this way. So Matthew's is probably the most interesting of all the names because, according to the Greek manuscripts that we have, his name is Mattathios in the Greek, but in the Hebrew, at least in the Semitic version that we have of it, is Mattithio, which also has like a bunch of other nicknames that was surrounding during this time, which I'll put here. And his name meant gift of God in the Hebrew. Interestingly enough, he is also called Levi in other accounts, which is just another Hebrew name derived from the tribe of Israel. Mark's is probably one of the more simpler ones, and his name has two components. So in the Greek, Mark is Markos, with a K-O-S, and in Latin, it's Marcus, C-U-S at the end. The other part, Enianos, for John, is also a Greek name. Enianos is the Greek adaptation of the Hebrew name Yohanan, which means Yahweh has shown grace. So when talking about the gospel account of John, this would apply to the same thing. Enianos, Yohanan. Simply put, Luke is probably the simplest of them because Luke was a Gentile, he was Greek, and it was Lucas. It's just that as time moves on, language also changes. Even the Greek that was used during this time period, Koinonia Greek, has changed and has shifted a little bit into something a little bit different. But that's one of the more interesting and beautiful things about language, is that it continually changes. So these would be the transposed and translated names of those who made gospel accounts of this time. So to answer your question plainly, the people during the first century who wrote these accounts were Mattathios, Ilionos, Marcos, and Lucas. I hope this helps.